Hey Mitchell, how are you? Hi. I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
How's that?
Perfect. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. It's just a bit of a drama getting onto Zoom. I haven't done Zoom since like COVID, and so I had to reboot everything and do all new passwords and stuff. But
I'm
uh,
sorry.
that's all right. I'm here now.
Perfect. Yeah. So you had mentioned you're painting right now?
Yes. This is I can sort of give you a quick tour of the studio.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
So I'm sort of doing that's a work. This is a work for a still life award, a prize.
Wow. That's
You
beautiful.
guys do you guys do yum dim sum? You do dim sum, don't you? Yum cha? Do you do that?
I don't think so.
Chinese restaurants, and you go there and they got
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
and you just pick little dishes all, and they got. So that's going to be that's what that is. That's the aftermath of a Sunday morning yum cha.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And I love seeing that because in our gallery, we obviously have, your beach photos or your beach
Yeah,
painting.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well,
so
this is what I do. Yeah, this is what I do. So this is what stuff I'm working on at the moment. So some of these will be going to you guys.
yeah, we're about to
Um,
get them, right?
yeah, they're the big ones. These are smaller ones that Brooke has asked for. So I'm just doing a whole bunch of small ones at the moment. So this is basically part of the studio.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good space. Like it's twice as big as this, but I'm only just working in the front area today. So, um, fire away. Start asking me some questions. What do you want to know?
Yeah, so we wanted to get to know a little bit about you, and we obviously get amazing feedback from your paintings. People walk in and they're just so drawn to them. Um
Well,
Blown
Brooke just sent me
away.
a message saying the gold one just sold, which is great.
Yes, the gold, people, they always compliment, whether it be, it doesn't matter what color it is, it's always like, oh, I love the pink, oh, I love the blue, oh, I love the gold, like, oh, I love the white. People are just so captivated.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, since we're getting some of your product, we wanted to do an interview with you and have a way for, our customers and clients to get to know you a little bit better and to know more
Sure.
about your artwork.
Well, I get that because people, it's a serious purchase, and they like to think that it's they like to know what went on behind the making of the work and who the person is. I get that.
Yeah, and I learned today that you're a surfer.
Yes. I mean, just here, that's just a couple of my surfboards.
I love it.
So yeah,
Now
I've got
I
heaps of
get
boards.
your inspiration.
And I surf every day. Or try to surf
And
as much as
I have one quick question, a
yeah.
personal question. Do you guys have beach chairs in Australia?
As in what sort of chairs?
Someone told
We
me,
do like folding chairs and stuff.
yeah, I had a
Yeah.
customer say they're like, "Oh, you can tell he's from Australia because there's no beach chairs. They don't have those there."
You know, they, I have painted a few in over the years, and also we've got these tents now that are really popular called cool cabanas,
Yeah.
and they're like they're like a just a tent, a sun sort of shade that folds up into almost like a yoga sort of roll bag, and they're weighted down by four pockets in the legs, which you put sand in, and they're just made of canvas or a really light sort of polyester, and they've got striped prints on them. And apparently they were designed in Noosa, and now they're huge in the eastern states of America. I don't know about Florida, but up north, like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Long Island, New York, they're
Huh.
massive.
I'll
They
have to
could be
look
coming
those.
your way. So, and they do beach chairs too. But see, with beach chairs, um, to tell you the truth, they're quite difficult to paint, and
Right.
they're quite sort of um, they just take a lot of sort of detail and time that I'd rather spend doing other stuff on the painting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you do people seated in chairs, it tends to draw too much attention to that particular figure. Whereas there's sort of like a geometry to what I do, whether the figures are standing or lying down, that sort of makes sense as a complete picture.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to be really careful about sometimes getting too working too much detail into certain aspects of the painting, because then that draws the eye towards that, and I don't want that. Like
Right.
I just want the viewer to have an overall, to give an overall effect to the viewer, not just to sort of go into the minutiae of certain parts of the painting. So yes, I have done beach chairs in the past, but to tell you the truth, we don't really use them here. We're much more we're not that precious when we go to the beach. Like I know, especially in Europe too, they're all about their umbrellas and their chairs, the whole setup. Whereas we are quite comfortable just throwing a towel over our shoulder and just going to the beach. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very casual.
I find it interesting that here in America, I see people look at your artwork and crave that simplicity. Because especially in our area, like we don't have that simplicity. Like people don't really do that.
No, I know what you mean.
So it's
And
pretty
I
cool.
think also more in America, it's more like it's a day or an event when you go to the beach. Like here, it's just part of our DNA. Like you'll do it after work. You'll hop in the car after work before going home, and you'll go to the beach, or you'll walk to the beach, or do you know what I mean? Like it's like everything else we do.
Right.
Whereas I think more like in Europe and the States, for example, when you go to the beach, you make it like a conscious decision. You pack for it.
Right.
You take drinks, food, an ice chest or whatever. Like it's a full production. Whereas with us, it's like we go throw ourselves in the ocean and then we go home. We won't even like necessarily lie on the beach for too long or sit there all day. Well, we can't. It's too hot. That's the other thing. Like we tend not to spend all day on the beach because it's just brutal. Whereas, and it's like I said, it's just something that we do. It's part of our daily routine.
And what part of Australia are you in?
I'm in Noosa, so it's Queensland, so it's East Coast, and Noosa is probably not just one of the most beautiful parts of Australia, probably one of the most beautiful parts of the world.
Wow.
If you Google it, are you Googling it now? If you Google it, Noosa, Noosa, we've got like we're surrounded by like a national park.
Oh wow.
And with koalas, and like the water is aqua blue, crystal clear, like I've seen like at Water Sound.
Yeah.
Sand's pretty white, but it's tropical. It's all like palm trees, and it's also like Water Sound. It's a money area. Like it's a destination, a holiday place where a lot of people go. It's quite a wealthy destination.
Right.
It used to be a sleepy little town in the 60s and 70s. It was like a fishing town, and it was cheap and cheerful. And there were even like trailer parks here and stuff like that. But that's all been developed now. That's like, it's all like, I'm speaking American speak here, trailer parks. We call them caravan parks. And that's all gone. And it's all condominiums now. You know, like it's all, but the nice thing about Noosa is we've got a very proactive council, which doesn't allow rampant development. So nothing is over 3 stories. And it's like, if you want to build something here, they're very strict about what you can build. Like as opposed to other parts of Australia and the coastline, which is just crazy. Like it's horrible.
Right.
It's not nice. You know, they've ruined it.
Wow. So you have, basically.
So we live in a very rarefied area. It's very special. And in fact, our house is an old shack. It was built in the early 60s by a boat builder. So it's a lot like it's all timber. And it's right on the edge of the national park. So we're surrounded by koalas, trees, bird life, incredible. We even have a giant snake which lives in our the roof of our house. It's a python. It's about 3.5 meters long. Oh, your feet, aren't you? So it's about 10 feet long. And occasionally it comes through the house. So
and that's just casual?
Yeah.
It
fine.
doesn't bother you at all?
No, we live with it. And the nice thing is that we have a lot of like you get a lot of like mice and rats and stuff that come in the national park. And it just keeps them away. It's fantastic. So we have no problems with anything like vermin or anything because the snake just eats them. And
It's
it'll
like,
just cruise around us. Like, like it only comes out, we only see it like a couple of times a year because it's mostly in the cavities and in the roof. But that's part of like living the wildlife that we live within the national park. It's like you live with it, you know?
wow, now I just want to
Like
see
my
everything.
dogs just visited me.
Oh, hello. What's your dog's name?
Clive. He's
Live.
a, yeah, he's a ridgeback.
Oh
So
yeah,
he's
he's beautiful. That's
got the
beautiful.
ridge.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude.
He's
Is he
very
with
needy.
you?
He's pressed up against me at the moment.
He wants to be involved. He's like, I want people
Oh
to.
yeah. He's a studio dog.
We have a studio possum.
Right. Okay. I've seen it. I
Yeah.
thought it was a raccoon. It's an opossum. Is that what you call them?
Well, I technically that's what they should be called, but
Yeah.
in the South we just say possum.
Right. Do you
Um,
surf?
I wish
You look like you surf.
I should surf. No, I grew up
You
in.
should surf.
I should. I'm like, we don't have waves here.
No, you're in the panhandle, aren't you?
Yeah. Have you ever been
Yeah, you got
here?
to go. No, it looks beautiful though. Like everyone I know has been there just go, oh, it's amazing.
It is stunning.
Yeah,
But it's not big for. So for me, I'm like you. I just go to the beach every day for
yeah,
30 minutes.
yeah,
Most people aren't like that here, and there's not really any surf.
yeah.
So you wouldn't love it, but
No,
I definitely want to visit where you live now. I'm like, okay, putting that on my bucket list.
no, definitely check it out because it is amazing. Like
Snakes and all. It all
yeah,
sounds.
yeah,
So
snakes and all.
when did you start painting? Did you start surfing first and get inspired by that, or vice versa? Or how did
No. That's actually a good question. I've always drawn, like I think I said in that as questions, I've always had a pencil or a brush in my hand. I just was naturally drawn to it.
Mhm.
Um, and it's funny how, like, I mean, as a kid, I had toys and stuff, and I did all things that kids did. But at the same time, it'd always be a little part of every day or two that I'd put aside just to paint or draw. I just had it in me, and I come from a creative family, so it was always nurtured and supported. Like, and I left school early to go to art school, and my parents were fine with that. It was like, you're not going to be a doctor or an attorney, so yeah, go for it. You know what I mean? So it's always been in me. This, again, it's something to do with, I suppose, my DNA.
Yeah, it's very important to have support, especially on a journey like that.
Oh yeah. Look, the nice thing is also that, look, I mean, I've done a lot of things over the years to support my practice. So I've bought and sold property, flipped houses. I've even I've pulled beers in bars. I've pumped gas in service state. I've done everything when I was a kid growing up and my early years and putting myself through college. I worked in restaurants and crazy kitchens for a number of years. I did anything I could to keep that practice going, but it's nice now that I've reached a point finally in the last 5 years or so where I can just live off my art practice, which is very rare, you
Yeah,
know?
right.
So yeah, I'm really, really happy with that.
And this has always been your dream.
Always. It's what I
Oh,
wanted to do. Yeah.
that makes, yeah, that's amazing. I love that. That makes
Yeah,
every,
no, it's something that, yeah, obviously I've always aspired to, but it was just a matter of time and it's funny, when I finished art school, in my year, there were 130, my dog's just like, he's just
he's
wants
like,
to get
I
in
want
there.
to be like this. He's cute.
Go to your bed, go to your bed. When I finished art school, the year I was in, there were 130 students. And I remember a lecturer saying to us, a professor saying, of the 130, 2 or 3 of you will make it as artists. The rest of you will be nurses, bus drivers, short order cooks. And everyone was freaking out and like, no way, we're all going to be artists, That's what, like, you finish art school and you're like, I'm going to be an artist. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's just not the way it's geared, especially in Australia. There's not enough there's not enough interest. It's funny, in Australia, we really, like as they do in the States, we really sort of treasure and glorify our sporting achievements. And like America, we haven't got a really old history, not like Europe. So the arts tend to be marginalized somewhat, and they're like almost like an afterthought. It's funny, like people still think of me, what I do, as like a hobby, even though it's a full-time job. I go to the studio, I work religiously every day, 7 days a week, normally, and it's a job. But it's funny how like people take sport really seriously. Like I love sport and I'm a sports nut, but at the same time, we don't have the same respect or support for the arts, which is a shame. And we've only got a small population too. We're like 25 million people. So we're like we're probably like 10%, not even 10% of your population, and still that's a lot harder to support yourself as an artist or have support. Mind you, at the same time, it tends to find people out pretty quick too. I mean, you're going to be an artist if you're really dedicated. You got to be good, obviously, but you also got to be like have it up here. You got to be really dedicated and have drive. And like anything, any pursuit, and stick with it. And a lot of people just don't stick with it, but I did. And, can you stop crying, please? This dog is the biggest sook. Can you see him there?
Big.
He's big. He's massive. He's part Great Dane, we think.
Yeah, he looks it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. He's massive. He's huge. But he's the biggest baby. He'd be a lap dog if he could. He'd just jump into your lap.
Does
Anyway.
he inspire you in the studio?
No, he irritates me. He just he's always coming up, sidling up to me, pushing against me, crying. He's needy.
Paintbrush move.
Yeah, he's just like a big baby.
It's so
But
sweet.
yeah, anyway, no, he's good. He's nice to have in the studio. If you want any, like this surf label, I did some board shorts and shirts, swimwear and towels and stuff. They're based in Australia, and they've got a video out of me, and you should check that out also because it's got a lot of Noosa in it and the dog, me, the studio. So they're called. Can you make a note of this now?
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
called. All you got to do is just type Google TCSS, which is the Critical Slide Society, and they're like a very cool sort of independent surf label in Australia. They sell to America, they sell to this Asia and Europe, and they just did a 2.5 minute video on me, which is online. You can check it out, and that's got footage of the studio and me and my daily sort of routine, and also the clothes I designed for them. So that's the other thing about, like, as a painter, I think these days, and I worked for a German artist when I first finished art school. I went to Europe for a couple of years, and he was pretty famous, very well known. And I learned that to be an artist, you've really got to be multifaceted. Like at the time, he designed a whole bunch of book covers for Random House. He did a whole lot of church stained glass windows for a cathedral. He did a fashion line. He's a painter, he's a sculptor, but he does a lot of other things also. And I've always subscribed to that also. I think artists have to be very sort of flexible with their output and their oeuvre. So, and I have no problem with that. Some people have a problem with that, but I have no problem with that. It's not necessarily commercializing your work. Well, it is in a way, but as long as it's cool and it's sort of controlled, I've got no problem with it. So doing this stuff with this surf label was, I really liked it. It was great. And I'll go out in the surf and I'll see someone wearing board shorts I designed. It's pretty cool. I like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, check them out because that's got a really cool video on it. Yeah.
I can link it to our blog post that we write about you.
Definitely.
Cool. Yeah, I think that'd be great. And maybe people will buy some shorts.
Yeah. There's a bit of swearing in it, but otherwise it's fine. You can probably bleep that out.
I I think it'll be okay.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be fine. But yeah, no,
Okay.
so do you think,
Can I just ask you a question first?
yeah,
I look at where my paintings sell over there, and it looks amazing, that space that you've got. But I don't get, it's a gated community, is that right? The whole town? Is it a bit like I just watched what's that movie with Jim Carrey where he's in
the
that
Truman Show?
Truman Show? Is it a bit like no offense, but is it a bit like that? It looks very perfect.
The Truman Show was filmed there.
No way.
Yeah.
Perfect. Can you tell me also, like, are most of the clientele who buy my work there, are they locals or are they people on holiday? Can you holiday there? Like, is it a holiday destination?
Yes, definitely.
So
I
people on holidays, or is it locals?
I would say we have a pretty good mixture of both.
Right.
Why?
Oh, I just want to work out what my clientele is over there. Just like
Oh, no,
it,
yeah,
because
yeah. Sometimes
it
people
looks very similar to Noosa. Like, that's what I mean. Like, the clientele here are very upwardly mobile. They're very wealthy. And that seems to be my clientele here. It's funny how it seems to be the same over there. Like, as soon as I saw Water Sound, apart from looking like the Truman Show, I went, okay, so this is a pretty zhuzhy area. This is a lot like Noosa. I get why my work is selling there.
Oh yeah, you're a
Like,
perfect
there's places my work won't sell because people see it as being too expensive, or it's just not aspirational for them. Do you know what I mean? But that's the reason why I moved to Noosa, was because I came from Sydney, but I knew my work would sell really well up here.
right.
So it's funny how it's selling really well in Watersound also.
Yeah,
Just wait 1 second. I've just got to just do one thing.
that'll work.
So yeah, okay, I get that. So that makes sense.
Because even people who are visiting, they typically, if they're staying in the area, they're wealthier.
Yeah,
So it's either we have like, local buyers, we have consistent clients. We also have people who walk in, they see your work and they're like, ship that to me right now,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is amazing. Ship it to Canada, ship it
yeah,
to Texas, Wyoming, wherever.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
your art, I think it's really cool. I said this to someone. I was like, the fact that your art goes from Australia to Florida to
yeah,
Canada is
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and that's what I like about my work too, that people, it really, and I don't want me to sound like a cliche, but people from all sort of different parts of the globe, I suppose, can relate to those paintings. There is a retro element to them. Like, there is something that's sort of old school about them. I mean, like, nostalgia can be sort of deemed as like a sort of a dirty word these days. People sort of look at nostalgia as being regressive or sort of taking a step back. But in actual fact, I like to think that my works, they sort of touch, like, there's something to do with, there's a feeling of, I don't know, it's a more sort of innocence, or like childhood, or I think we all have memories. I mean, I don't know about Kentucky, but most people who live close to the coast have memories of holidays and being by the sea. Do you know what I mean? And the color scheme that I use, they can be quite sort of retro also. Like, I've been using a lot of colors that are actually very sort of 1950s colors. They're very sort of pastely. In actual fact, ones that you'd probably see a lot further south, like in Miami, for example, or in Florida, where, like, south of where you are, that sort of 50s sort of, it's like, I'll give you an example here. I'll show you this. One second. I used to do ceramics also, and this is a vase I did.
Oh,
So
wow.
the colors of this are very much, and I did this about 20 years ago, but the colors of these sort of colors that I'm still like using now, and they're
Yeah,
very retro.
for
And
sure.
there's something about them I think people find subliminally very comforting.
Yeah.
You know, it takes them to a past that they've probably lost connection with through whatever, through life, through growing up, through work or family or whatever, but I think my paintings give people that connection to something that they hold true within them, that they remember as being something that wasn't complicated, that was fun, you know, and I
Yeah.
think that's why they're so popular.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, besides the fact that they're amazing and they look amazing,
Yes.
all of that.
You see, I look at it like I look at them and I mean, I get it, but I just have to paint, and I paint them and I'm like, I don't see them like that. It's funny. I just see them as something that I have to do. I really just have to bash these things out every day. Otherwise I'd go crazy, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's in me just to keep creating. And honestly, it's very haphazard the way I work. Like, I use photographs. I work from photographs, and I take figures, and it's sort of almost like a patchwork quilt the way I do it. But I don't draw anything up, scale anything. I work straight sort of brush to canvas, and just using photographs from and invariably they're old photos of crowds on beaches, but I simplify them too. So like, even these days I'll go to the beach and I'll take photos of crowds, but then when I come back to the studio and paint them, I'll take out a lot of contemporary devices, and that's intentional, like mobile phones.
Mhm.
You know, like back in the day, people would actually talk to each other at the beach, or they'd look out to sea. That was the whole idea. These days, we tend to be on our phones, even in groups. And if we're looking out to sea, we're taking a photo of it, which we'll look at later. We don't actually, I really don't think when you actually sit on a beach these days, you're not really taking in everything around you. It's all about yourself,
Mhm.
the body beautiful, to be seen, you know, and especially like somewhere like Noosa, where even the elderly people are really fit and mostly good looking. Like, they spend a lot of money on themselves. There's a lot of maintenance going on. Everyone looks beautiful.
Wow.
So it's funny. I mean, that comes with wealth too. It comes with money. You know, you can afford to do those sort of things. So invariably in my paintings too, I don't see much obesity. Maybe I should sort of put a few like people in that are, I mean, overweight or whatever. But there seems to be a formula that I do, and it's subliminal. It's totally unintentional. The
Mhm.
way that the figures work out on the page, and they tend to be pretty sort of it's just sort of very similar in a way. I'm looking at them now as we talk. Um, so yeah, but they are taken from photos that are old. Like, when I say old, like from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So that also gives it, I suppose, a retro feel. But I have been going back to the beach, like I said, and taking more photos the last couple of years. But then I'll intentionally take out, and also the swimwear too. The swimwear can be quite sort of generic. You're just not sure whether, like, a girl's in a bikini, but that could be 50 years ago, or it could be now. I
Right.
don't really go into like detail about the cut, or, you know, the
Right.
where it sits on the hips or whatever. It's really, that doesn't interest me. It's just, again, that's that overall look that I want. Um, Even with like hairstyles, that's why they're really simplified. And if I get into the minutiae of it, like talking about chairs or whatever, I tend to get sort of, it's like going down a rabbit hole on Instagram or something. You can just end up spending hours, and it's pointless. And I
Right.
really feel like that with my work too, that um, like, there is a simplification to my work. There's actually, like, they look very simple, but there's actually a lot going on in them. There's a lot of thought that goes into them to make them simple. Because really what I'm doing is I'm sort of deconstructing or subtracting from an actual image, or I create the image from lots of images, and then I just totally simplify it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
I have little like nuances and detail in things. Just, I have a bit of fun with the viewer. Like, I'll do certain things and see whether people pick up on it. Like, I'll do like just sometimes a little bit of detail in something, and people go, oh, the way the light hits that person's shoulder, or the way the umbrella is facing the, like, there's certain things that I do, but really they're very simple in their, not simple in their construction, but they're simple in their finish. And I really like that. They're
Yeah.
sort of like, you can't really put you can't really pinpoint what age they are or where they are. I mean, the other thing that's interesting too is I never put water in them. There's
Right.
no horizon. There's no horizon line. So really they could be in the desert for all intents and purposes, even though they're not. But I think that's what people like also connect with also. They're not a typical beach painting.
Mhm.
Like when I
Okay.
tell people, they go, what do you do? I go, oh, I paint the beach. And they go, oh, they have this preconceived idea of, which is not like what I do at all, but that's fine.
I feel like now that you're explaining this, you literally take our everyday lives that have grown into kind of complicated, and you
Yeah,
simplify them for people, and
totally
people
simplify it.
talk to
I think
you.
that works for people also. It's that whole thing again of looking back
Mm,
at I mean, it's probably naive too, and it probably isn't that true. Like we all had childhoods that could have been shitty also, but there's always shitty aspects to childhood, but at
right,
the same time, there's aspects of childhood that we all have that we all sort of subscribe to. And I think the beach is one of those great things.
right.
And it's a great leveler too. I mean, this is another aspect of what I do is it's a great leveler of class. So you can be at the beach and you really, unless someone's wearing a Rolex or they're wearing like really expensive swimwear, which I don't pay any attention to anyway, but if they do, you wouldn't know the person next to you on the beach, whether they're who they are, what they are. They could be, a captain of industry, or they could be unemployed. Who knows? And I think, especially in Australia, because we do have a class system here it's passed down from being from England. There
Mm.
is a class system. And, like if you go to a party here, the first thing people ask is what school you went to. Where do you live? Like, and not where do you live as in like, what suburb do you live in? Do you own that's what it's like.
It's exhausting.
So when, when you go to the beach, there's none of that sort of stuff. You don't know who you're next to. And all race, color, and creed go to the beach. There's no division. There's no sort of segregation or anything as far as, like I noticed when I last went to the States up in Connecticut, we went to this public beach, which was packed. And then they had hurricane fencing each side down into the water. And then beyond that fencing on each side was empty beach with houses. Like this is up in Hyannisport, which is where the Kennedys come from.
Yeah.
So my mate and I, being Aussies, we did like, I'm not kidding you, it was like this on the beach, packed, and each side was miles of empty beach, but it was private. So all we did was we just put our towels on our heads, swam around the fence and walked up the beach. And people were like freaking out, like, you can't do that. It's private, We're like, because there's no private beaches in Australia. The
I didn't
beach,
realize that.
yeah, there's no private beaches in Australia.
Wow.
Um, that's one thing that like the beach is for everyone.
That makes sense.
Even resorts on the coast up here and on islands up here in Queensland, you can still bring your boat up and jump onto the beach and use the beach. That's
Do you
for
like
everyone.
that?
It's very egalitarian. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I
So
would like.
that's one thing I noticed about America was that it's like, you can't just go to the beach. People own beaches. The same in Europe too. So I think that's what I quite like about it also, that there's no class distinction
Right.
in Australia at the beach. It's one
At
of
the
the
beginning.
last sort of bastions of um, not like non-class. It's great, And I
Yeah.
think that conveys in my paintings also, for sure.
There's so much meaning behind your artwork.
But see, that's it. There is, but in actual fact, when you look at them, you think, okay, it's just figures on a beach, but there's actually a lot going on. And subliminally, the context behind them is a lot deeper than what is actually what you see at face value. And it's funny because a lot of people buy my work, they're not even thinking of things like that. But as an artist, I do think of things like my works aren't political. I don't care for politics as such in my work. But I suppose deep down there is things that are being said in them. but
Right.
most people don't get it, and that's fine.
You think subconsciously they do though? If they buy your
Yeah, perhaps they do. You know, it's funny also with COVID that we've become much more spatially aware. And so the beach has, before COVID, we would be like sardines
right.
packed up against each other. But now there's a spatial awareness at the beach because people are just like,
Yeah, don't touch me.
yeah, don't cough on me. You know what I mean? But it's like people are actually aware of each other's space these days, which is, I think, is quite a nice thing, actually.
Right. Like your dog. You need space from your dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we do have a minute and 30 seconds left. I just wanted to warn you before it just like
Are
cuts you
you
off.
timing?
No, well, it just ends at 40
Oh,
minutes.
Zoom ends. Okay, so quick, you better ask me something then. I've spoken too much.
Yeah, I'll ask you one last question. So, I don't know, how do you enjoy being with Adara Art? Like, what has it done for you, and how has it affected you? And
Oh,
things
well,
like
I think it's great because it's giving me an audience I would never normally have had. But I
right,
like the connection with like Adara, and being in water sound is very much like Noosa. And Brooke's a good operator. Like she gets it. Like I would think I was following Juan first as an artist, and then she was running his Instagram account and saw my work. So I think it's a match made in heaven. It's perfect.
me
You
too.
know, it's great. I'm very happy for it to be there.
Match made in heaven. I'll definitely. I'm gonna tell people you said that. All right. Well, I don't want to cut you off. This has been so fun. We were
Great,
supposed to
Nicola.
for
Nice
15
to talk.
minutes. Now we have like no time. But yeah, we'll post this, and it was so
Yeah,
nice to meet you and get to know you a little bit better.
fantastic. Nice to talk to you too.
Have a good night.
You too. See you. Bye.
Bye.